for listening this morning. Talking about compounding interest, dividends. Feel free to give us a call, 612-504-8400, or of course, havenfinancialgroup.com. Set up a time. There's no cost, no obligation. You have nothing to lose, only things to gain. If nothing else, good, valuable information. And again, of course, we do lots of education. You can find our classes on our site, and we just had one that was full this week in New Prague with 40-some people, well attended, people eager to learn. And because how many times do you remember growing up, all the classes that taught you how to make all the perfect retirement decisions? Probably not many people remember. So
no.
Can you do it yourself online? Yes, but we're very big into education because educated decisions lead to better decisions, which ultimately, hopefully leads to a solid retirement.
Absolutely. Kyle Thomas is with us today. He's a certified financial planner on the investment team at Haven Financial. Always good to have Kyle along with us. Gentlemen, we're going to talk a little bit about dividends and what kind of impact they can have on your retirement. I mean, dividends actually are a means by which to live for some people who are in retirement, correct?
Yeah, it certainly can be. It's not like a fixed product by any means at all, but it can be in a way. You know, if a company gives you a 5% dividend, well, someone could count on that for income that they receive from a stock. But those dividends can change over time, and it's always important to know what it is and the full capabilities of the investment that you have. And
Kyle, I'm sorry, Kyle. Didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say, let's talk just a little bit, we could back up just a second here and talk about, some of the products that offer dividends. Where might that come from? Savings accounts, CDs, that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, dividend, when I think of it traditionally, is a stock, right? So there's dividends that companies will give out as a reward to their investors, attract new investors, or show strength in the company. But then there's also, dividends / interest that you can get from CDs, savings accounts, and that type of thing as well. So there's multiple ways to look at what a dividend is, and there's multiple different vehicles that you can get it from.
Yeah, and if I could add, Kim, dividend stocks are shares of companies, that pay investors some of their profits, if you will, typically maybe on a quarterly basis. We see that most common. Not all companies pay dividends on their stocks, so not all stocks could be considered dividend stocks. But at the end of the day, Investopedia defines it as a dividend is the distribution of a company's earnings to its shareholders and is determined by the company's board of directors. And we like to look at the pros and cons of what you're doing. Dividends is one way to do it. There's other ways to do it. It could be a combination of a variety of things, and that's what we look at as we evaluate individual situations. Dividend stocks can be a great source for passive income. They can be flexible. You can maneuver on the fly and make some adjustments. They usually are value stocks, which are relatively stable and safe companies per se. Your Coca-Colas, your Hormel's, Johnson & Johnson, some of those real stable companies, utility companies, those type of things. But there's always a catch. Not everything is perfect. Individual stocks, which we're typically referring to, can be more risky. And again, we get back to the word risk, not saying that's bad, but evaluate it. Does it make sense in your portfolio? You need to really choose these dividend stocks carefully. Some people get hung up, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Well, Larry, I just only do dividend producing types of investments. Well, make sure you weigh with the good and the bad and the ups and the downs. Don't get overexposed to a certain area. That could be problematic. And then look at other avenues to generate income, because income is the name of the game in retirement. Where is it going to come from? What is Social Security going to be? Are you blessed to have a pension? What additional monies do you need to supplement those sources of income? And how do we do that in the most tax efficient way possible, managing risk at the same time so we're not over conditions?
So Larry or Kyle, whichever, many of these dividend stocks, when they pay dividends out, they are taxed, correct? So would it change if you decide that you're going to reinvest that money versus taking it out as income?
No, it doesn't change the tax status of that
Okay.
dividend. So whether you reinvest it or just leave it in cash or reinvest it into some other type of investment, the tax status remains the same. So it doesn't make a difference to be doing that. And typically, if you're going to be wanting to live on dividend income, you don't want to reinvest that anyways, because now you already have the tax from the dividend. But if you reinvest it and you need to sell some of that stock later to get some more income, now you're going to have more tax issues, right? Or not issues, but you're going to have more of a taxable burden. And some things that I like to point out is that you want to control your income as much as possible in those years of retirement. And when you have a dividend that's reliably coming in, that's not as much control, especially when you have Social Security and pensions as well. And if you're able to sell your securities when you need them, that gives you more control rather than when this company that you own their stock pays out a dividend to you. So that's one of the drawbacks to that as well, even though there is a reliable source of income from these dividend paying companies.
So am I hearing you say that you don't love dividend stocks or for people who are in retirement, or this is just one of the pros and cons that you have to think about?
Yeah, it's definitely a pros and cons thing. And I like to look at all the trade-offs of it because I certainly do think that there are really great dividend paying stocks out there. But also I like to look at the stocks that aren't dividend paying or they're very minimal dividend paying stocks. And there are big companies that NVIDIA, Tesla, Apple, Google, Facebook, Amazon. Those are the hot stocks of the last 5 years. And if people didn't invest in any of that, they were all dividend stocks. Well, they really missed out on a lot of gain. So that's an opportunity cost that I like to look at it and say, we need to make sure that we're properly diversified and investing in all asset classes, because these dividend stocks, they can be a tool and they take place in a portfolio. But you need to have a complete portfolio to have the best efficiency.
Kim, near retirees that have a more limited timeline, if you will, they may want to focus on a combination approach of different types of ways to generate income. One thing that we caution, and we've seen this over the years, is some of these high yielding investments like business developed corporations, I'll really stress REITs, real estate investment trusts, and other types of limited partnerships. They can be very appealing. I remember in 2007 to 2009, though, a meeting with retirees that had REITs, and they had IRAs and REITs, and there was a shortage of money and income. The stock market was down, and because real estate was really doing bad, these REITs these are alternative investments. They could not access their money, even if they wanted to access their money. Larry, I need the money, but you can't have it because they've ceased distributions. You want to be very cautious. You want to have a good balance. Make sure you understand the upside and the downside. But some of these can get quite risky. They make them sound really, really good. But I always say if something sounds too good to be true, ask a lot more questions first before you make a decision like that. So just things to be aware of.
So I think what I hear both of you saying is diversify, diversify, diversify.
Correct. Diversification, the right recipe, the right balance. And it may sound complicated. It's not for us because we do it all the time. But if you're not paying attention, and for some of you that maybe have 401ks and you have limited investment options, that might be the best place. And we'll give you our opinions and make some recommendations and suggestions. It's just the added value that we bring to the overall big picture. And then with our clients, as they have questions, just this past week, on a couple different occasions, people mentioned, wow, nobody's ever spent the time to actually explain it to me in layman's terms. At least I have an understanding. And that requires more than a meeting once a year for 45 minutes to an hour. Retirement has all these other pieces that go with it, and people should be getting the attention they deserve.
Absolutely. And things shift, that's for sure. And you need to be meeting and to discuss. 612-504-8400. That's how you get hold of the folks at Haven Financial Group. And if you have a portfolio that maybe it's diversified, but you need someone to look over, or maybe you're not sure if it's diversified or not, why don't you give the folks at Haven Financial Group a call? 612-504-8400. Call them and tell them that you heard us here on the radio and that you you'd like to come in and you'd like to talk to some of their experts, some of the members of the team, talk maybe about dividend stocks, maybe you'd like to talk about tax issues, you'd like to talk about other kinds of investments, they have the folks there who can talk to you about it. 612-504-8400 is the number. You can also go to havenfinancialgroup.com to learn more. When we come back, we want to talk about the power of the Roth.